Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you and welcome to this month's Grid Talk. It's generated a lot of interest, especially following the sort of showcase from last month's Senior User Forum. So really pleased you could join. We've got to rattle through this because we want to give you guys plenty of time to ask questions at the end. Just move us through. See if obviously a lot of familiar faces on the call, but there's a few new ones. Really, Grid Talk for those that are new to it, it's just our way of just sharing best practice on the topic of P3M capability development with our clients. A few prospects. It's our way of just making sure that we share knowledge and experience of Method Grid and how we support capability development. For those that haven't used Livestorm before, on the right hand side you can sort of chat, interact. You can also ask questions, so don't wait. Just if you've got things that you want to talk about or ask us questions, just please use the panel on the right hand side, and myself and the team will work with you. Okay, all right. Quick one, just a signpost for next month, and I think we'll put the link on to register for this one in the chat. But we'll be joined by Francesca and Dave from Arup, who presented at the Senior User Forum last month. I think their feedback was really positive. It was a great session, great on sort of sharing lessons learned on how they've translated sort of ways of working into a digital playbook, and also going through the change and adoption and deployment approach. So that'll be for next month. So yeah, really excited about that one. Okay, next, just introductions. So I'm Pip Morpeth. I'm head of professional services for Method Grid. And Mark, well, you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Mark. I'm the backend tech lead at Method Grid. I'm also leading all AI R&D. I wrote my dissertation last year in natural language processing, which sort of career-wise turned out to be incredibly good timing because I blew up almost immediately after. I've started a PhD in it in September as well. So yeah, this is very much an area I'm excited to talk about.
I'm gonna have to get used to it. You at some point calling you Dr. North, but yes, used to that. Okay, guys, just agenda for this session. For those that are new, I'll just do a quick 5-minute explainer on what Method Grid is. Mark's going to do, and it's been really well received, just a quick explainer on all things AI, then we get into it. We're going to then get into sort of P3M and AI and give you a view of what our initial thoughts on how we're actually going to apply it within the platform, and probably what the future shape of it is going to be for us. Most importantly, though, and I think everyone's kind of quite keen to see it, is probably the early beta that we're launching in the next couple of weeks, but also some of the early prototypes that the team have developed around lessons learned and some of the sort of productivity hack examples. Key thing is Q&A at the end, because obviously you want to give you guys the opportunity to ask Q&A at the end. Okay. So very quickly, for those that are a bit new to Method Grid, main problem that we try and solve is helping organizations reduce the cost of poor quality that comes from inconsistent project and service delivery. If you look across those pain points across 1 to 8, I'm sure if you work in professional services, they'll resonate with you. But really, I mean, the so what is, why do companies experience these pain points? And we boil it down to these 4 key areas. First one is method clarity. You've got to give people a structured way of working in terms of how to deliver services. Second point, regardless of the method and how much clarity is, you've got to have a means by which you can measure and monitor compliance that it's actually being applied. And second point on that one is it's also giving teams the ability to customize, tailor it, either for the particular project or tailor it with the client so that they can take ownership of it. Third point is you've got to have a skilled community of practice that can use that method, but also, how well have we integrated learning and on-demand training into the method to help them deliver it? And how well does that function actually drive improvement into the ways of working, or how quickly can it translate new regulations, new standards into new innovative ways of working? Final point on this one is the residual risk. Essentially, what we do in delivering projects and programs is inherently risky. So there will always be, audit and assurance that needs to be integrated in what we do. And that's the key question, is really how well are audit and assurance integrated in terms of the method? Is it clear on what evidence, stage gates are required in order to execute it? But also from a team perspective, if there are things that need to be improved and recommendations that need to be addressed, is it just an Excel spreadsheet, or can it be fully integrated into the ways of working for the teams? So that's the why. And our perspective, looking at it from a technology perspective, you'll always think that knowledge management, project management are always separate. And I think the key thing that we've done with MethodGrid, on to the next slide, is really try and break those silos down just to make it a bit easier for people to deliver projects consistently. So key points. The first point is the platform, and I'll have to sort of go through this because we're going to use some of these labels later on in terms of how AI is actually going to be applied to each of these pillars. So just explain it. First point is the platform allows you to build knowledge-rich playbooks that define how you deliver projects and services. And you can integrate learning and training into that platform, into your playbook. But the key bit is you've got the ability in the platform to clone that playbook, and then you can start tailoring it for individual projects or tailoring it for individual clients. And that tailored instance in point 2, that becomes the playbook that you can use. You can assign people to tasks, and you can use that then to track compliance and build confidence. The third point is, and what we've experienced now with clients, is because clients are cloning playbooks, teams are identifying improvement, i.e. into content or into ways of working, and they're feeding that back into the master template. So it's really unlocking a continuous improvement loop. I think the big focus on today was, how do we, we'll demonstrate it later, but how can we improve that with AI to do behavioral nudges with lessons learned, etc. And we'll hopefully bring that to life for you. And then point 4 is really just ensuring that audit and assurance are fully integrated into the playbook in terms of what evidence they need to see, but also if there are improvement actions, recommendations, or praise, that audit can actually be part of the playbook that's being used to track and deliver that project. Fundamentally, I'd say all we're trying to do is help organizations reduce the residual risk that projects fail through ensuring that they're delivered consistently. And that's through basically establishing a robust, integrated 3 lines of defense. Okay, so hopefully that just sets the context. And obviously, when you see the platform, it should make sense. Okay. In terms of our purpose, just if you're new to our business completely, our whole purpose is enabling capability uplift to improve how teams deliver projects and services. And we do that by connecting knowledge, experience, and technology. And our vision is, we want to build the world's leading AI-empowered knowledge and project management platform. So that's just probably enough about us. And Mark, I'll probably kindly hand over to you now, because I think we'll get to the meat and bones of AI and hopefully bring it to life for people.
Yeah, cheers. So before we get into it, just to quickly kind of explain and sort of demystify a couple of different AI terms, just so we all know what we're talking about. So these are different terms you've probably heard thrown around. So artificial intelligence, it's simply just any attempt to make a computer mimic human intelligence, behave in an intelligent way. Machine learning, now that is a subfield of artificial intelligence that you've probably heard mentioned a lot. What differentiates machine learning from just general AI? It's about learning from new data. So the example I like to talk about is if I'm writing a computer program that is playing a game of chess, if I explicitly tell it, in this situation, make this move, that's artificial intelligence, because it's trying to do something intelligent, but it's not machine learning. It's making the same moves in the same situations. If, on the other hand, I write a program that plays a bunch of games of chess, And then in the future, it'll look back and it can say, well, when I was in this situation before, I made this move and it went well, so I'm going to do that move now. That's machine learning, because the more it plays, the more data it gets, the better it gets. That's what makes something machine learning. And then this deep learning one is about these mathematical structures called neural networks. And the idea behind them is they are inspired by the way human brains works. So within your brain, you have a neuron. When that fires, it triggers a bunch of other neurons. They in turn trigger a bunch of other neurons, and you get behavior as a result of that. And these structures are designed the same way. They have neurons in them. Each neuron triggers other neurons, and that creates a behavior. So whenever you hear the terms neural network or deep learning, that's just what that means. It's a type of machine learning, which again is about learning from new data. To move on, natural language processing specifically, which is sort of getting a lot of mainstream attention recently, is just a subfield of AI that is trying to make computers understand language as humans use it. So just to quickly explain the difference here, structured language is like computer code or data languages, and they're very easy for computers to understand. But the downside is when you're writing them, you have to write them in a very strict, structured way. Natural language, on the other hand, doesn't follow any real structure. The rules of grammar are not consistent. Different people use words to mean different things, and that's what differentiates the two, and that's what makes it difficult for computers to understand, because it doesn't have that same structure. So, we just move on there, Pip.
Yeah.
The big question is sort of why has natural language processing become such a big deal in the last sort of 6 months or so? And it probably seems like there's been some huge major breakthrough in the last 6 months or the last year that has led to this. And the surprising answer is that there really hasn't been. What instead has driven all these breakthroughs we've seen is, I'll just quickly explain what all these circles on your screen mean. These are different natural language processing models, the sort of state-of-the-art models over the last few years. So that one on the far left, BERT, that is Google's, at the time, state-of-the-art model, which is from 2019, and then up to GPT-3, which is OpenAI's, that was originally run in ChatGPT, sort of released last year. And the circles just represent how big these models are in terms of how many parameters they have. And a parameter within a model is just a number. So BERT, for example, has 100 million different numbers that control its behavior. So when we talk about training a model, what we mean is all of these different parameters, all of these numbers, we're just trying to choose good values for these numbers that will give you a good output to the model. So BERT has 100 million of these parameters. GPT-3 on the far right there has 175 billion. So that's just how big these things have gotten in the last couple of years. And GPT-4, which is OpenAI's newest one, they didn't publish how many parameters it had, but the rumors are that it's over 1 trillion. So, what's essentially driven all of these improvements is just OpenAI, Google, these other companies, they've just thrown more resources at the problem. Because the bigger a model is, the more data you need to train it. GPT-3 was trained on a corpus of about 1 trillion words, which is obviously sort of quite difficult to acquire and sort of clean the data and things like that. And the bigger they are, the more hardware they need, the more time you need to train them. And that's what's driven it. And the reason that's, in a way, encouraging for everyone is that these companies, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, they aren't doing anything that special. They aren't doing anything that anyone else couldn't do. They're just throwing more money at the problem, which is good because it means anyone can kind of do it. They don't have some secret source that no one else has access to, you know? Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, like I say, it's sort of very encouraging for all of us.
Yeah. I think it's also, Mark, that as a technology company, the models now are more accessible in terms of the API, so they can be
absolutely. There's OpenAI have their own API. Google similarly. I mean, even sort of self-hosting models. What started to happen in the last couple of months, the size of these models has actually started to come down. There's a sort of famous one called Alpaca, which was released by a team at Stanford University, where they found a model that had 6 billion parameters. They found it had similar performance in a lot of tasks to GPT-3, which is obviously significantly bigger. But that just makes running them far more easier. So yeah, things are starting to come the other way where they're a lot more accessible, a lot more usable than they sort of have been.
Okay. Key
So yeah, a couple of challenges to using natural language processing. Like we just talked about, the amount of data required. Like I said, GPT-3 was trained on a corpus of 1 trillion words. Data protection, because they require so much data, you need to be careful what data you're giving it, what data the model is outputting. Hardware requirements, yeah, again, like I said, as the bigger model is, the more dedicated hardware it requires. And then this last one, this is the big one that we are focusing on, which is providing context to these models. Because a lot of the time, if you ask one of these models the same question, you'll get the same or similar answer. And what we're really focusing on is, how do you get an answer that is relevant to you? How do you get an answer that's relevant to your organization? How do you get an answer that's relevant to the methodologies your organization uses, what your role is within the organization, who your audience is? Are you aiming your content at sort of senior expert levels or more junior people? And this is really what we want to focus on.
Yeah, I think, Mark, the other thing we sort of specialized or focused on is how you protect, on that data protection side, is what do you want to share with like open models versus what do you want to protect and keep within your own estate. And that's the key challenge is making sure what data is being used, but where it's also been shared with and been consumed and what's protected with. Cool. So the next slide, because I appreciate we're trying to we'll get to the demos fairly soon, but I think the one thing that we're looking for, and it's kind of it's moving so quickly, the space of AI, and there's a lot of people, and it's great to see that the whole industry is talking about how AI can be applied within P3M, within consulting, within professional services. For us, there's kind of 3 real key areas that we're looking at, which is developments in AI, sort of goal-based planning, how AI can become more strategic aware. And obviously then there's this kind of traditional, what can AI do to help us with P3M delivery? And we're sort of monitoring and analyzing those 3 fields because, they're very well connected in terms of, if AI can work out how to solve problems, and also it becomes strategically aware of an organization, it's very clearly going to start working out what changes or what initiatives or the routes in order to enable some of the outcomes being delivered, which will naturally drive projects. So I think what for us is these 3 areas are really connected. It's going to drive more informed decisions about prioritization, business justification for undertaking projects. But also, I think what we also need to balance and understand is it's creating the expectation that projects are going to get cheaper, less effort, be more efficient in terms of how we deliver projects. And also what we're seeing, and I think we'll see this develop over the next 6 months, is there's going to be more, Mark, as you suggested, the need for data, or the value of data is going to be critical in how firms stay competitive in terms of, there'll be industry data sources probably for lessons learned. We've already seen data sources for scheduling, estimating, and being able to add that data into your plans and have your plans checked against industry data. I think that is just going to continue. And also we put at the end, I think at some point there is going to be a expectation from consultants that organizations will provide them some form of AI assistance as part of their employee value proposition. And it's clearly, for us, our job really is through fast craft, never settle, and collaborating with you guys, is to bring this technology to you. And that's the challenge really that we're focusing on in terms of the product roadmap in trying to bring AI to you guys to make it accessible. Right. I think now we'll get into sort of just to help position what we've and this was informed with what we think, but also we asked this question at the Senior User Forum last month. And these are some of the ideas, and the ones in blue are the ones we're going to be able to showcase today. But first one, in terms of grid build, AI can play a role in assisting and developing knowledge content, and we're going to show that to you guys today. I think we showed it at the Senior User Forum, and it was really received very well. And that's the first AI beta that we're going to release to clients. but there's also massive use cases in terms of grid deliver. So once you've cloned your playbook and you're using it in delivery, again, it's kind of, you want that AI project assistant to do things for you. How can you, write me a report for X, go and nudge everyone that's late over 5 days, show me what's red or what's overdue on my project. So basically changing the interface and using AI to help people get more productive by using systems. But clearly, there's also other aspects in terms of enhancing project planning and estimation, getting much smarter in terms of intelligent sort of task, resource and schedule management and prioritization. But also, and it's probably linked to the other one as well, about navigating the data universe, which is, it's really powerful for risk, issue, simulating scenarios, and also being able to do sort of mitigation and prioritization within projects. In terms of enablement and driving continuous improvement, there's obviously capturing and prompting lessons learned. And I think we discussed this in October, and it's kind of, we'll hope to bring that to life. But how could we be better that lessons learned just aren't at the start and at the end? It's kind of, what can AI do in terms of behavioral nudges to foster continuous improvement or catch and push lessons as you're delivering projects? Naturally streamlining communication and collaboration with teams. Write my highlight report for me, please. Summarize this issue for my project board. But also, we are seeing other use cases, which is, I'm doing this type of project with this type of client, with this type of solution. Please write me the user stories, write the requirements. I'm working with this supplier. What would you recommend in terms of, and AI having the access to data to provide valuable recommendations and insights. In the assurance aspect, and I think I've already seen sort of other providers, there's definitely a role for AI to support independent assurance, essentially probably giving you the early warning indicators on projects based on behavior and data, but also the aspects of being able to do predictive analytics, what it can see in the data trend and forecasting that trend going forward and giving you much better, like I said, early warning. And then there's the reporting and insight aspects of, I need a different, go and analyze this data for me, please. Now summarize it, and I need you to now engineer a report or a dashboard for me. So see that as a very key use case. The key bit for us in how we build this within our platform is to ensure that you have the control, that you control the narrative and context. So, you can say, if you're, using it for knowledge, you can choose which data sources, which references you want to use, which documents that you think you want to have ingested, and use that to generate content within the platform. That's really key for us. So without further ado, we're doing okay for time. So Mark, we can probably have a few test and learns on this one. So the first one we wanted to showcase was AI lessons learned. And just to set the scene before we start, this came up in October's senior user forum, and if we're honest, it was more a concept that we discussed at the senior user forum about, how do we get better at actually capturing lessons learned, but really how do we sort of change our ways of thinking about how they're actually promoted and pushed to people, and also instead of it just being an Excel spreadsheet. How could we also make it more of an interactive experience using different types of media? So is it a video that you're pushing? Is it images, diagrams, text? And it's those kind of behavioral prompts that we really wanted to try and design and use AI to build that. And what I'd say, what you're about to see is still very much prototype. We haven't built all of the elements of it, but the experience we want to provide is, we can ingest lessons learned, you can add future lessons learned, but you can also choose how that lesson would be played back to a user. But then really what we want to enable is AI to basically look at who is using the system, what they're doing, and essentially looking at all the lessons, being able to prompt at the right time to catch that lesson. And I think in the future as well, people can then score and say, was that good or was that bad? And the system will then learn, and then it will push, top lessons. But that was the outcome that we want to be able to provide. And then Mark, I think hopefully you're going to give us the the first look at the prototype for lessons learned.
Yeah, thanks, Pip. So this, we're going to be focusing on that bit you just mentioned of prompting the right person at the right time for sort of previously captured lessons learned. So if everyone can see this grid here, this is within the dev team at Method Grid. We do, in fact, use Method Grid for our own sort of software sprints planning. We use it, our use case is slightly different. We use it more sort of Kanban board, but you can see here, this is what our sprints master grid looks like when we start on working on a new feature. I'll show you a couple of the elements, the sort of requirements and design stages. There's some stuff for when we release the sprints. There's checklist for writing our test plans. And the example I'm going to give, the reason I like this example, firstly because it's a real thing that actually happened on this grid, and the lesson I'm going to show you is genuinely a thing that happened specifically to me. And I like this example because when we were working on this prototype, obviously you start off, you come up with some sort of contrived examples to see if the system will work, and then to kind of really put it through its paces, we tried a real thing that actually happened to see what answer it would give us. And to me, this was sort of the aha moment of, oh, okay, we're onto something here. So this is the lesson. So this is sort of tab, as people say, we'd ingest these lessons from all different sources. This is for demo purposes, it's the simple text box. I'll read this out just in case you can't quite see it on the screen. Again, real thing that happened. So after this sprint was released, it was found that some of the change database queries were slow on the production database, which is much larger than the database that was used during testing. When considering what needs to be tested in the test plan, developers should decide whether any changes will require testing on a large database similar in size to the production database. And as we were saying, it's a simple text box for the purpose of this demo, but this could be you upload the documents, you're uploading a PDF, you're capturing a video of you describing the lesson or quick audio. So there we go, I've saved the lesson. And now, sort of Pip's point about how lessons learned are currently done. You were talking about we upload them in these documents and they sit there and we don't necessarily look at them like we should in the future. And this is our sort of our imagined future where, let's say it's 6 months into the future, I'm working on something else. I've cloned this grid, it's for a different project, it's for a different feature that I'm working on, and I've forgotten about that lesson because I uploaded it in a document and I care about what I'm working on now. That's my focus now, is the new software feature working on. So I'm going about it, I'm looking at some elements, I'm clicking off some tasks. And then I open this master test plan element, which has our checklist for what I need to look at when I'm writing the master test plan, and I get this little pop-up. There's a previously captured lesson learned that is relevant to the content you're viewing. Sounds interesting, I'll click on it. And here's the lesson. When considering what needs to be tested in the test plan, developers should decide whether any changes will require testing on a large database similar in size to the production database. Now that is the correct lesson. That is what I put. But the important point here is it's extracted just the lesson. It's taken out my sort of surrounding narrative and context. It's extracted what the lesson is. It's prompted me at the right time. In this demo, there's none of this is sort of hard coded or contrived in there. The system has picked out that I'm looking at the checklist for what I need to consider when writing our test plan. And that is indeed when it's relevant. So there was sort of further step it's suggesting or suggested action to properly learn the lesson. It's suggesting that we add a task to this element after this other existing task. And the task it wants us to add is, do you need to test on a large database similar in size to the production database? So I'm going to add that task because that sounds good. And there we go. It's added it to our checklist. So now for this sprint and for all future sprints, that's now in our checklist. I'm going to see that when I'm writing a test plan. And we've learned the lesson, which is sort of the goal of all of this. We've updated our methodology to learn the lesson we previously captured.
Yeah, and I think, Mark, the key point you made there is kind of, whilst you're capturing your team's lessons, other teams are capturing their lessons, and the system is then working out and pushing that content, which
absolutely,
you insight for, especially in an agile iterative build process.
Yeah, I think that's a key point as well, because, you know, for the person that's demo, that's me uploading it and then me looking at it. This could be someone else has uploaded that lesson, and then a different person is the one who actually writes the test plan for a future project, and they are the ones who are prompted.
Yeah.
And, you know, not necessarily the same person. Yes, that's sort of how we envision lessons learned prompting working in the future.
Yeah, I think it's still. I think it's the logic behind. I think once you crack the logic, it's then we can now just focus on, okay, how do we make the interface work? How do we make the multimedia aspects of it work? But
sort of uploading videos or documents for your lessons rather than absolutely.
So yeah, no, brilliant. Okay, well, Mark, thanks very much. All right, next one.
Our next demo.
Yep. Right, AI sort of content development, and this one is probably the first one we're going to release for beta. Probably 3 weeks. I think we'll release this for beta, and I know a lot of clients have already signed up for it based on the sort of the videos that we shared and the approach. So, but if you are interested, please mention it on chat, and we'll reach out and get you signed up for the beta, because we really want to be able to test and stretch this as much as possible before we release it. If I'd say, when did we start? So with using AI for content development, I think we started in Q4 as a PS team, starting to look at, well, how can we use AI to help clients build playbooks quickly? Because you can imagine the challenge if you want to build new ways of working, productionize, methodology, quality criteria, hints and tips, purpose, product descriptions. That's a lot of content, a lot of knowledge that you need to be able to have access to. And some clients don't. That's not their starting position. That they've got all of that elsewhere. Some of them are starting from scratch. So we wanted to be able to use AI to rapidly accelerate that journey. And I think we've successfully trialed it with 3 clients using AI for content development, and it's probably 5 times quicker. I mean, we're talking weeks, not months now, as a result of AI. The key bit that we spent probably a long time testing in Q1 was being able to give clients the ability to, how can we tailor this to particular brand guidelines, the type of tone of voice, the language I want to speak to. It might be, looking at the leverage of your firm and saying, well, look, we want to have content written for junior resource, or we want to have it written for, senior consultants, because that's the makeup of our firm. Right down to sort of, okay, we also generate video explainers using AI. So, you might want the look and feel, the tone, the accent. You might want different cultural heritages based on what region of the world we're deploying the playbook to. But then you also want to be able to refine the questions, the query, the format, how it responds, and how it actually gets added into the playbook. But also being able to control what sources of information you want to use to build. So if I'm wanting to build, let's say, an agile way of working, and I want to use SAFe, I want to be able to digest SAFe and use that as my source record, or I want to add in my own client reference information, and being able to tailor, but you are in control of being able to tailor what resources that you want to use, so that the output is bespoke to your business. And that, and then hopefully, Mark, if you want to, I'll switch it back now. We can sort of bring this to life for people.
Yeah, cheers, thanks. So yeah, this is a template within our sort of MethodGrid account, and our existing users will know templates are something that already exists within MethodGrid. The sort of key difference here is this is what we're calling an AI assisted template, where instead of writing out all of the content yourself that you're going to reuse, you just give it a short prompt, all of these different content areas, to say, this is what I want in this different content area. And then this template can be reused across many different elements, and it'll generate content relevant to the element you're building. So we'll quickly show a quick demo of that. So I'm creating a new element in this grid. Let's say I'm creating an element about a project brief. And I'm going to use the template we were just looking at to try and generate some content for us. Now, this is going to take a little while because it goes away and has a thing. But what it's essentially doing is it's looking at the template we were just looking at. For each of those content areas, it's getting the prompt from it, and it's combining that with the context of what we're trying to generate. So within this element, and the content it'll generate will be specific to this element that we're working on. And people think this is sort of where you come in, because we always say, you know, it's.
We even built in the messages, Mark. I think we just want to say, look, this is AI assisted. It is not replacing the fact that you will need your SMEs and also to be able to add your own insights into this content and checking the content. This is, I'd say, hopefully getting you 80% of a very good first draft that you can then start tailoring right side and making it specific to your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So here's the sort of 80% it's come back with. So it's written as a purpose for a project brief. I don't know if we can see it, so I'll quickly read out the start of it. The purpose of this project brief is to provide a comprehensive overview of the project scope, timeline, and deliverables, which sounds good to me. We continue to generate different types of content areas, again, based on our template. It's given us this task list of how we go about preparing a project brief, some key principles of it. It's given you know, some hints and tips, which again, this is all based on the template we wrote. It's given us this table of different responsibilities. It's given us some links we can go to. And yeah, as Pip said, this is the 80%. And what we can do from here, either you can go in and manually tweak it, or we also have this kind of AI assist tweaking where, let's say that's good, but I want it to be a little bit shorter. So I say, summarize this to around 30 words, because I want a very quick, short, this is very quickly what the purpose is. And there we go. It summarized that, the content that was there, to be slightly shorter. We can do, you know, these tweaks can be, as Piffy was saying, changing the tone of it to target at different levels, and change formatting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I think the other interesting thing we tested is, you know, like we've built deliverables that don't exist using it. So I think we were building, we were building a playbook for SAFE, and the client wanted a kind of PI proposal that they could take to a client, and I was like, well, I know that deliverable doesn't exist in any in SAFE. It just doesn't exist, but it's a complete. So we asked it, you know, let's build me a client proposal for a PI iteration. What would it contain? And I mean, there were a few open mouths when it generated it, and they were like, wow, that's, you know, and you know, the question was, yeah, that's probably what, I can write it any better. I think from our side of things, we were really happy with this, because in sort of February, we started doing testing saying, look, take the standard project management deliverables that we know, and we had pre-written elements. And then we were asking AI to render it. And we were, look, do a score out of 10, you know, manual versus AI. And unfortunately not of our reputation, but AI just did a much better job of probably the consistency, and in some areas, some of the things you just forgot. But certainly what this does really well is gives you that consistent tone of voice. If you're building a playbook and you wanted it to be defined consistently across every element, then AI is very good at that, because, you know, you can
especially when you've got different people across the team building different elements of it, to keep that consistent. Yeah.
And I think for the busy consultant, or for, you know, you're scaling your consulting practice, I think Method Grid is great that you can put your methodology in, but we really wanted to help clients with, okay, it's not a massive hit on utilization, because you can get your first draft really quickly and actually just focus your SME effort on reviewing the content and adding in specific insights. And that was a real game changer, not on speed, but also just making it easier for firms to be able to build their playbooks very quickly. Just as a test, if we've got time, if you throw in the chat, just we can test it on any deliverable and see what it comes up with. And please feel free, you know, if you're working on a project and you want a description of something, just throw it in the chat, and at the end of the session we'll see what AI can produce, to see if we can break it.
We'll do some live demos.
Live demos. Mark, the only other one, just if we come out of this one, was the just video explainers for people.
Yes.
So what we've also done is kind of like what we wanted to make and help clients build, and in some ways it's building video explainers. We've done it manually with some clients, and it is, I won't say, probably I think Dom is watching, but Dom's felt this pain more than I have. But trying to get everyone in a room, trying to get them to rehearse and deliver the messages consistently in a good way that you would productionize is a lot of effort. But we do want to give people a much more interactive experience to be able to access sort of on-demand learning as they're using the playbook. And so the use of AI to build video explainers was really a great sort of accelerator for us. And what we do is essentially, once you've built your element, what the AI does is we ingest the contents of the element, we ask it to engineer a video explainer script, and then we use AI to then render that into a video explainer. You can pick and choose the avatar, you can pick the accent. There isn't a Geordie accent, which I was pretty ashamed of. So I'll hopefully add that one in soon. But that's the experience, and it's just, whether you're delivering it for UK and then you want a global, make it global, you can make it bespoke for different cultural heritages as well. And that's a really unlocker. I don't think the sound will come through, Mark, will it, on Livestorm? But
I'm not sure. We'll give it a go. I'll play the video just so you can quickly see.
Yeah, and you can mix in. Some people will say, "Look, I like the video avatar," but you can very quickly, make the text, the voice sound very consistent, and as a way of just building sort of on-demand learning content to make your playbook more interactive. So
yeah. So the key point there is this is all AI generated. This person saying those words isn't a real person saying those words. It's an AI generated person who I can assure you, I don't know if everyone can hear it, but she is reading out what those subtitles are.
Cool. Okay. Right. Next one, I think, Mark, is to look at the kind of AI, the first sort of examples of the AI assistant helping you do stuff in your day-to-day job.
Yeah, so this is sort of moving on to one of those other pillars that you were talking about before, Pip, of we're out of build, we're working within a grid. And this is a sort of fairly quick and simple demo. It's around these sort of filters we have. And this is an existing feature, or existing users will have seen this, where you can filter a grid to just show you specific elements. And the idea here is, instead of having to go into here and manually build out all of these different filters, you can very quickly just give a quick AI assisted. So let's say I want to see my overdue, if I can type properly, overdue elements. So all of my elements within this grid that are overdue. And there we go, there's one of them. And that is sort of quickly, based on just that sort of simple natural language prompt, filtered my grid. Now the key sort of important point here is that this completely hooks in with our existing filter system. I can go in here, and like with any filter that I built myself manually, I can save it as a bookmark, I can add different filters on top of it. And it sort of works with, fairly complicated things. Let's say I wanted all elements, not green elements. So all elements with a rag that isn't green, essentially. And there we go. It's filtered that down to ones that don't have a rag, have a red rag or an amber rag. So you can get fairly complicated. You can combine them with different ones. Let's say not green elements assigned to Dom. And there we go. There's all the not green elements in this grid assigned to Dom. And we talked about it before, it's about boosting productivity mostly. And that is just so much quicker than going into here, sort of selecting your things, selecting the person, selecting the different grids. This is the sort of thing that it's not that flashy, but it's going to say cumulatively these sorts of things will pay people so much time.
I think we're just touching the tip. Really, it's just the start. I think when we get, I think there'll be a lot of quick wins with most technology providers. Just starting to change the interface using natural languages as a means of interacting with your platform. I think where for us this is just a start. It's kind of what we want to try and get to is okay, look, write me the requirements for, go and analyze this and produce the risks. Fill in my risk log, and that's the kind of the real speed and productivity hack that we want to get to, where it's got access to data and then it starts being intelligent and doing stuff like, go and assign all these tasks to the project manager, and getting speed to do that. Mark, the only other one, Mark, which was probably someone threw it out in the senior user forum, was, do you know what? It'd be good if you could use AI to build a dashboard from scratch. So yeah, I think it was it Friday? I think it was mentioned on the Thursday, and then on Monday you said, "Oh, do you want to have a look at something?" So yeah, really impressed with sort of fast craft on this one.
Yeah, so when we sort of at Senior User Forum, we talked about some of these. This was a very popular suggestion that people said, this would be huge if we could build out some dashboards based on, in a similar sort of way, based on natural language. So let's say I want to see a chart of overdue elements and I want it by assigning. I want to see a chart of this. So again, natural language, type that in, and there we go. There's a chart of all of my overdue elements across my portfolio by who is assigned to them. If I want something else, let's say I quickly want to see a count of open grids across the whole portfolio. There we go. I've got 214 open grids. And again, we just talked about productivity, comparing that to having to manually go in and sort of choosing all your filters and how you're going to group them, things like that. It's just so, I don't know how long doing that sort of things would have taken me, but certainly longer than the 10 seconds that took me,
Yeah. And I think, Mark, this is just the start for AI, for sort of reporting as well, because I think eventually we're trying sort of, you can ask AI any question, and you can ask how you want it displayed, what type of graph you want, and it'll engineer that and build that for people. And that's where we're going to have to push that quickly, because I'm sure if we don't, someone's going to get there before us. So it's
absolutely
really,
no, and I think this is like you said, this was one of the suggestions that came out of the Senior User Forum a couple of weeks ago, and when we say we want people's feedback and it will sort of direct us, we mean it. This is you suggested it, and here it is. It's
cool. Right, Mark. I think if we go back to the content development, I think there are a few testers for us.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right then. So who's got that one? So we want try method statement for high-level glazing installation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, specific.
Go on. Yeah, I know. See, now obviously, naturally, this will work within the constraints of the template. I will say that right now. But there would be nothing stopping you, Duncan. I've seen your example. There's nothing stopping. You could build a template if you wanted it to be, looking like the product, and it would engineer it in certain sections for you.
Oh, absolutely. This is just one template, and the templates, they're completely sort of customizable. You can write anything you want in there. This is just based on the one template we've written. We'll see what it does. I'm interested to see. Well,
yeah, no, fingers crossed. Yeah. I think we are somewhat confident, Mark, I suppose, because we have tested it. I'll say that now. Yeah. But yeah, it's been fairly robust in terms of what logic it's got access to.
Yeah. It's having a think. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I don't know how well you can see it. I'll read some of it out. The purpose of a method statement for high-level glazing installation is to provide a safe and efficient plan for the installation of glazing at a high level. This document outlines the necessary steps to ensure that the installation is completed in accordance with the relevant regulations and standards, and that the safety of all personnel involved is maintained throughout the process. It also provides a detailed description of the materials and equipment to be used, as well as the procedures to follow in order to ensure that the installation is completed in a timely and cost-effective manner. Which, I'm not an expert on high-level glazing installation, but
John, I think John is the only person that could give us a bit of feedback on whether that's
actually... So some of the tasks it's given us: identify the scope of the project and the relevant risks associated with the work, develop a plan for the installation of the glazing, including the materials, tools, and equipment required. Let's go down. It's given us some hints and tips. giving us some quality criteria, different responsibilities: project manager, site manager, safety officer, quality manager. I'm not a sort of subject matter expert, but it seems like a very good 80%.
Yeah, if not,
that you're expecting
more.
Then go in and yeah.
But again, Mark, the probably thing we could point this at different like different standards and ask it to
Absolutely, yeah.
for us as well. So that's key.
Yeah, as you say, this is based on our template that we wrote. This could be, yeah, you've given it some context for the specific domain that it can sort of give more context to.
Right. Well, I think if we come back, I think we've gone through, because guys, I think we've gone through AI assistant. Really wanted to use this time, guys, just for questions, what you might have. There's a few questions here that we've already got, so we'll get onto those. So the first one, you mentioned that AI assistant can respond in different voices. Would it be possible to tailor the assistant to consistently respond with a certain paradigm or framework? I think the AI assistant, like the voice, you've got complete control over a language in terms of whether they speak German, English, or you can also choose the accent, like the tone of accent, whether it's Southern, Northern, Irish, that type of. You've got that ability, but also you can soften the tone. You can control how quickly they speak, and also there are some with AI. There are some words that it doesn't quite speak properly, so there's a bit of tweaking and tailoring to get the voice to work properly. But in terms of building video explainers, I mean, we're for clients now, it's depending on the complexity of the message, it's no more than sort of 2 to 3 hours to be able to build a video explainer and launch that on the playbook.
So in terms of the content as well, it's certainly possible to tweak it, as we've sort of said, to give it different sources. If you use a specific methodology that you wanted to talk about, point it at certain documents, give it a certain set of documents, and say, adhere to these guidelines when you're writing the content for this element or this video. Certainly, all of that's possible.
Yeah. One from Neil. Is assisted AI finding learning from within MG or looking wider? Both in that example is there's knowledge within MG's world that we point it at, but also you can point it at different. You can ingest different documents. So the example the other day, ingesting the procurement. Was it the commercial playbook from the government and asking it to ingest that and then start building playbook. Playbook is a really good example of that. So you can ingest specific knowledge, but also it's got access to all the other knowledge through the OpenAI model as well.
Yeah, and there's, from a technical point of view, there's a lot of different techniques you can use to do that, depending on how much data, how much context you're giving it, and we're sort of working with different techniques. And I think what we're sort of finding is these different technical techniques work for different use cases. And so it's just sort of finding the best models, finding the right sources, finding the right techniques for each different feature, each use case.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably for those where the first building block for knowledge was, okay, can you build me content? Like build me content within an element. I think what we're also going to try and explore is, can you ingest, let's say someone publishes a new standard, new regulation that requires a full-blown assessment of an organization. Can we ingest the regulatory standard and then ask MethodGrid to build me a grid from scratch? And I think, being able to say, okay, look, I want you to ingest this regulatory standard. I want you to base the project manager methodology on Prince or some other one. And then the platform basically builds you a very good grid as a starter for 10. And I think that's really what we want to try and help clients with, is how quickly, you've got a problem, new something's come and hit you left field. How quickly can you convert that into a digital playbook that you can get consultants to be able to deliver to clients, or showcase to clients and be able to do more innovative and take ideas and translate them into practice quite quickly.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's the big thing is that it's about the context, it's about the quality of data, essentially. And I think where we see sort of things going is you have data sources you can give it yourself as an organization, or within MethodGrid, we'd have sort of curated high quality data sets we've put together that we know are high quality, and that you can optionally point these models at each of these depending on your use case.
I think the other area, Mark, is we know industry, like we know certain, like the government especially, is starting to build and asking organizations to contribute to like industry reference data. There could be, we won't be far off that there's a kind of global lessons learned repository for specific sectors and industry that maybe it might become mandated that you contribute to and ensure that your project's delivered against. And we see the use of AI for us within the platform is by allowing clients to have access to those data sources so that they can use them for project method, but also in delivery. And I think that's probably, like we said before, data sharing and industry data sharing is what's going to happen. It's going to be a way of maintaining competitive advantage. And so we really want to make sure that we are on the front foot of that, so that we can give that access for you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Just
more questions?
Yeah, I'll just see. Yeah, please, any more questions? Maybe if you've got any ideas on what else you think AI could help with, that would be also really useful.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main thing, everyone's always interested in these things, is that sort of key point we've talked about, is the context, pointing it at data sources, pointing it at regulations, pointing it at specific methodologies, and saying, generate my content to these standards. I think that's sort of the key thing we're moving towards.
I think there's one. What impacts do you anticipate these AI developments having on P3M jobs in the coming years? I think it's a good question, and we talked quite a lot about this at the Senior User Forum. You can certainly see that probably, I don't know, it's hard to say with AI. It's kind of, I would say like 6 months, but then it'll probably be next month. But maybe 6 to 12 months, we're definitely going to see AI doing more for us. That project assistant is going to be able to do more for us. And really the challenge is enabling that for clients, is really how can you get that AI assistant to do the admin side of things, but also the kind of checks, your risk log, you've got three risks that don't have a due date, or they're expired, or this owner's left the business, it needs to be reassigned. So I think there's a real risk of sort of how it impacts PMO is key, because I think it's going to be a lot of the admin, a lot of the value add they add today could be substituted with AI. But I think it's really for PMOs to really take ownership of it and work out how they actually optimize AI in program project delivery. Problem that may create in the future is anyone that's probably gone through the consulting background in program project delivery, you learn your craft in PMO, and then you go up and promote yourself into project management, then you become program manager and program director. I think the real one we talked about Senior User Forum is, well, does it create quite a jump? What's the learner journey for a graduate that joins a firm, and how do we get them to be a project management and be able to use AI effectively if they haven't developed those core competencies and skills? And that's the key bit that I think the challenge for the industry really is making sure we don't create a massive skills gap that makes it very difficult for entry-level roles to be able to join the project program profession.
Yeah, you don't want to sort of be dependent on AI for your sort of knowledge.
Yeah,
because as we've said, everything that generates, you need an expert to validate the content that comes back.
Yeah, I think that's probably, it'll push us for knowledge. no forced sale there, but it will. We'll have to build robust knowledge to help that skills gap equip. What's the best way to stay up to date with us on AI? I think I've only got 1 minute left. We know we're going to do more sessions on AI because there's going to be more. I think when we launch the beta, we're also going to set up an AI working group, because we're going to need to gather feedback from the beta and also explore other ideas. Key thing to do really would be, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn so that you get future events. I think we're also going to send out a newsletter to clients as well in the next couple of months, just to keep you up to date in terms of the developments that we're making in this area. So yeah, key is, yeah, I think if you take anything from, I think the key bit is just let's keep collaborating, sharing ideas, and it should be fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's one of the most interesting things I've found about when we're working on developing AI stuff. It's how collaborative it's been with domain experts within, within your team, within our clients.
I've enjoyed that experience. Well, taking ideas from a conversation into delivery has been fantastic. Quickly, because I'm just going to run out of time. Just a quick reminder: next month's session, slightly later in the month, 30th of June. That'll be with Arup, taking us through their experiences of their building the digital playbook that controls how they deliver advisory services. It was a great session at the Senior User Forum. Strongly recommend you sign up for that one. And guys, listen, thank you so much for your time. And Mark, always, fantastic job. Thank you so much, mate. And to everyone,
thanks, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Have a great weekend.